So we're just finishing up with our online study program called Sravasti Abbey Friends Education, or we call it SAFE. So it's a 12-week course that's done online twice a year using a Moodle so that the people in the class can study the teachings and then respond to questions, as well as give feedback to their classmates. At the end of the course, the participants write a final paper highlighting what they learned during those 12 weeks. So the course I facilitated this time was Vajrasattva purification practice. And each semester that I facilitate, I learn so much from the participants. This term is no different. One of the participants agreed to allow me to talk about her final paper, which is it just blew me away, and it demonstrates the power of purification. When I asked her permission, she said, "Please feel completely free to use whatever I've shared in SAFE. If my experience helps others, that would be a blessing for me, and I hope for them too." So this is the kind of person she is. So I want to read some of what she wrote. There's so much. She first begins the paper with a quote from Venerable Chodron from the Course. Venerable Chodron says, "The idea is when we experience suffering, if we see it as purification, then it becomes purification. By the power of your thinking in that way, it becomes very, very strong purification." Then she writes, "Emaho," an exclamation of wonder and amazement. I love this expression. It explains so well the moments when we recognize that the Buddha's teachings have cracked open our hearts in a good way. By merely creating the causes for transformation, at some point, information evolves into greater understanding, and greater understanding becomes part of our personal experience. Daily purification practice seems to be gradually becoming like this for me. 6 years ago, late in life, when I first met the Buddha Dharma, I had no idea of the power of purification. 4 years ago, when I first started daily purification, I barely had a clue. So this is just such a good example of the time it takes to understand and incorporate these practices and to experience their power. She continues, "As I look back today at my early SAFE course notes, I see plenty of skillful questions about examining harmful actions and how to purify. But in the first 57 weeks of various SAFE classes, with a mind like a black bag full of shame that's tied very tight, I answered all of those questions superficially, only repeating what I heard in teachings and without looking honestly at the scary mistakes in the black bag. Even though most of Course SAFE 4, which is karma, cause and effect, I wrote nothing, not even a private note to myself, about the karmic elephant in the room. I had an abortion. But the Dharma has an unfailing way of getting us to move out of stuck places, and with the kind support of the teachings and my SAFE facilitator, I finally posted this in week 10. I'm thinking I should start with a compassionate warning. This post is a personal disclosure about abortion, which can be a distressing topic for some of us. For some time now, even before I met the Dharma, I've struggled emotionally with an abortion I had as a young woman. I think about it often, then quickly turn away. When I found out I was pregnant, I was immediately horrified that I had made such bad choices. I've had lots of regret about my actions. Maybe I weakened this karma a bit, but I don't doubt it was a complete action. What really concerns me is that, as self-centered and unrealized as I am, I can see myself making the same mistake in future lives. I've read about how to purify this specific action, but until this course, I've been avoiding actually doing it. Partly because I didn't have enough conviction yet about karma, and also because I was too ashamed to spend more than a minute thinking about it. In 30 plus years, I've only told my husband, my mother, and the boyfriend I got pregnant with. In the 35 Buddha purification practice, it says, I am confessing and accepting all these actions as destructive. I will not conceal or hide them. It's time to move past just reading about how to purify this very destructive mistake. It's time to open up more, face this more squarely, and purify a lot. Because the practice also contains these words. I promise to refrain from doing these actions again in the future. For me to have any hope of not doing this again in future lives, I have to stop hiding. This is a very courageous person. Reading this now recalls how 100% solid it all was to me then. From an early age, I'd had the sense of having eyes in front, side, and back of my head that looked for what was wrong with me, bad about me. Now I've pulled the most stinking thing from my black shame bag and shown it to others. I was my black shame bag, inherently inseparable. But by no longer hiding, something more virtuous could begin. That is such a wise sentence. By no longer hiding, something more virtuous could begin. And then she starts describing how she's transforming. Over time, I'm a mess became I messed up. I'm going to be punished became do your best to keep creating the causes for purification. And even sometimes, if this ripens as a horrible rebirth, may that too be for the benefit of others. She continues, the Dharma also has an unfailing way of gaining momentum in us. Like when first starting to turn a huge heavy flywheel, it's so difficult to get it to turn. But if you keep going, nudging it forward as best you can, turn after turn after turn, a collective force will take over and what was once difficult flows more naturally. This has been my experience with purification. It wasn't easy to memorize the Sutra of the Three Heaps, the 35 Buddha practice, or to look closely at the abortion, especially when it subsequently opened my eyes to the many other beings I'd killed in this and every lifetime. But just getting started led to disclosing the abortion to my teacher and getting her precious advice. Now, in all honesty, there have also been plenty of messy moments, such as distraction and forced practice that lacks joy. My still very ordinary mind rebels. Why am I doing this? I don't want to. Is this the same mind I started purifying 4 years ago? Thankfully, Dharma moments follow more and more quickly, like, just keep going, try this. What about applying that teaching? I'm most grateful that my go-to response is to gently say, do it. Create future happiness for others and yourself. And without effort, this thought of creating lasting future happiness instantly leads to present moment happiness. Now I know I am purifying. When I also take care to include meditation on dependent arising and emptiness, the whole purification practice is again lifted up. energized by hope. Yes, I've done harm, and the will of sharp weapons must be reckoned with. But there's no solid me, no solid negativity, no solid object other, and the bottom line is, am I steering my mind in a noble direction? Each of the three spheres is a flowing, empowering process, and this understanding must be included in purification. Because as Venerable has taught us, the only thing that really eliminates the karmic seed from the mind stream is the meditation on emptiness. There's so much to purify, much more to purify, abandon, and practice. But I don't seem to think so much anymore about how huge this is. There's a sense of fortification that's more prominent, a great conviction that something important will come by viewing suffering, not only as negative karma ripening, but even more importantly, by turning it into a cause for purification. By the power of thinking in that way and amplifying it through the four opponent powers, it becomes a very, very strong purification. So that paper blew my mind, I tell you. So, it's really clear when a woman decides to get an abortion, it is not a simple decision. It is fraught with pain, loss, guilt, shame, self-recrimination. And this woman got that abortion when they were still legal. They're not legal anymore. The impact of this decision on a woman of any age is enormous. And the only realistic response to this scenario would be compassion from all of us. As we can see in this story, this has been a 30-year process of accepting past actions, forgiving oneself, and purifying the past action. One of my heroes is Nancy Pelosi. She's the Speaker of the House who recently stepped down. I admire her for many reasons, but she's so strong, this woman. She's really clear about her beliefs. She's a devout Catholic, practices her faith every day. And throughout her career, she has also been very clear about the subject of abortion. She said, in June, when quizzed about her disagreement with the church over abortion, she said, "Let me say this. A woman has the right to choose, to live up to her responsibility. It's up to her, her doctor, her family, her husband, her significant other, and her God." This politicizing of all of this, I think it's something uniquely American and not right. Other countries, Ireland, Italy, Mexico, have had legislative initiatives to expand a woman's right to choose. Very Catholic countries. As she exits the speakership, Nancy Pelosi remains very much the same woman who in 2015, when discussing her opposition to an anti-abortion measure, reasserted her standing as a mother of 5. She noted then that when a GOP House member accused her of acting as if she knew more about abortion than the popes, she responded that she certainly did. This is a strong woman. Tangling with the US bishops who are more conservative than the Vatican on some issues is nothing new for her. Earlier this year, they wanted to deny her communion. She went to the Holy See, was warmly embraced by Pope Francis, and received communion. In an interview at the time, she declared, "We just have to be prayerful. We have to be respectful. I come from a largely pro-life Italian-American Catholic family, so I respect people's views about that, but I don't respect us foisting it onto others." So, as human beings, we can do better about how we treat those who have made a mistake. We can do better in how we treat ourselves when we make a mistake. So let's recommit ourselves to respond with compassion when we are in the presence of another's suffering. And by responding in this way, suffering for all involved will decrease.